from Selden, Long Island, New York. He weighed in at a strong 157 pounds. He comes into this fight with a record of 22 wins against no losses. 19 of those wins have come via the knockout route. He's wearing green trunks trimmed with white. Let's hear it for a middleweight sensation, Kevin Moley. And to my right, in the blue corner, all the way from San Juan, Puerto Rico, a three-time former world champion, one of the best fighters of this or any era. He weighed in at 154 pounds. His record, 47 wins, 4 losses, and 1 draw, with 28 knockouts. The great Wilfred Benitez.
It was March 1976 in San Juan when Benitez, at the age of 17, upset Antonio Cervantes, and that was his first of 3 titles. He has been around the block on more than one occasion now.
What an odyssey it's been for that man as he now looks at a young fighter who is really in his first major test.
Kevin Moley from Selden, Long Island, has a busload of folks here on his behalf, and so he is clearly the people's choice here at the Garden. Moley in the green trunks, Wilfred Benitez in the blue.
Charlie, for Benitez, his last fight was July 6th, and that's his only fight in 1985. So for him, he hasn't fought much recently.
The butterflies have to be fluttering a bit for young Kevin Moley. First time in Madison Square Garden, in front of the home folks.
Moley is not a stylist. He's a fighter who wants to come right in, throw lots of punches, and use his power on the inside. Benitez, when he was right...
Oh, look at that, a right hand! That's Benitez shaking.
That was a knockdown. Appropriate call by Joe Cortez, though Benitez says no.
Just 15 seconds into the first round, Benitez goes to one knee. And Kevin Moley making quite an initial impression.
There were reports this week that Benitez looked bad in sparring, that he'd been down several times. Perhaps they were true.
Benitez apparently content to stay in the corner, and now he moves to the center of the ring.
Benitez used to be great fighting off the ropes and very tough to hit, but based upon what we've seen in this first round, maybe that has deteriorated as well.
We had heard word that Benitez was floored a couple of times in his sparring.
Moley has landed the overhand right at least 4 or 5 times already in this fight.
And there's Benitez countering with a right hand.
Now Wilfred backs himself against the ropes. That's almost by rote. He's fought most of his career off those ropes. He likes to come out and counterpunch off that posture.
We want to remind that all of our local stations that at the end of the round, we'll be taking a 1-minute local commercial break.
Right hand by Benitez hurt Moley. So this first round, more action-packed than I think some anticipated. Another right by Benitez.
And another right. Moley blocked that right hand by Benitez.
Wilfred is not known as a knockout artist, despite the fact that he's got fairly good knockout numbers against the good fighters. But we remember, as we saw in that tease, he really jacked Maurice Hope, and he does have some sting in the right hand.
That's Moley countering the right.
Charlie, that looks like there's a cut over the left eye of Kevin Moley, some blood trickling down.
Right hand by Benitez with less than a half a minute to go in an action-packed first round. 10 seconds left in round 1. And we'll be back to Madison Square Garden right after this word from our local station. Round 2 of the scheduled 10-rounder. Wilfred Benitez and Kevin Moley. Benitez knocked down 20 seconds into the first round, but responded nicely in the final minute and a half of the first round.
Benitez started this round out with an overhand lead right. I think he feels that that's the punch he can land against Moley, and he did land it well in the first round. So look for that shot from Benitez.
Who'd you give that first round to, Al?
I would give the first round probably to Moley by a very small margin, not just because of the knockdown, but he had some good moments in the first two-thirds of the round before Benitez really came back. But again, that was a very close one. And the scoring, by the way, by a round system here. So the knockdown wouldn't make it a 10-8 round or anything and give Moley a bigger advantage.
Moley in the green trunks, and Wilfred Benitez in the baby blue. A minute into round two. Scheduled 10 rounds. The referee is Joe Cortez. We're coming to you live from Madison Square Garden in New York. I'm Charlie Steiner along with Al Bernstein. That was much more of a push than a punch by Moley.
You know, even with the erosion of skills that we can see in Benitez, Charlie, he does so many things right just by rote because of the years he's been fighting that he's a very dangerous opponent for anybody. There's the lead right by Benitez, and he feels he can nail Moley with that. That one just missed.
Kevin Moley, unbeaten, 22-0 with 19 knockouts. Benitez 47-4-1 with 28 KOs. And a left hand that connects by Benitez.
There is some redness around the left eye of Kevin Moley. Getting a little ugly there, and Benitez will try and work on that with the lead right.
Less than a minute to go in round two.
Benitez now is slipping the straight right hand by Moley and getting his own in as he did there.
And he's also, there's a good left hand, followed by a right by Benitez. Half a minute to go, round two.
You know, in his last major test against Davey Moore last year, he was knocked out in 2 rounds, Benitez. Hurt himself in that fight, had a bad ankle during it, but still, a lot for him to prove right now.
He broke his ankle in 3 places on that fight. 10 seconds to go in the second round. And blood is now pouring from the right eye of Kevin Moley.
Wilfred Benitez has always used this punch well, the left uppercut, and he used it against Kevin Moley in the last round.
Round 3. The corner of Kevin Moley worked overtime in that 1-minute intermission to close up the cut over the right eye. Benitez seems to be growing with confidence as the fight wears on.
Well, some fighters need to get into their offensive pattern in a fight, Charlie. I think for Benitez, it's when he gets into his defensive pattern is when he's effective. Now he's slipping a lot of the shots that Moley is throwing. He didn't do that early. He's very tight coming into this fight. And that cut over the right eye of Moley, I'll tell you, that is a bad one.
That could well be a factor before this fight is done. Moley in the green trunks and Benitez in the blue.
Good short right by Moley. That may have stunned Benitez.
Now Benitez stuck in his own corner. Moley does not have the most polished defensive skills, but he's an aggressive kid who keeps coming.
Well, he is, but Benitez is still a very good counterpuncher, and I think that's what Moley has to be aware of. You see on the inside, Benitez, he's been around for a long time. He knows how to use some elbows, his head, and some other things to work on that cut.
And that right eye is growing nastier.
Now the uppercut from Moley, and that's working for him on the inside.
This fight has been a roller coaster of tempo so far. And there's Benitez countering.
Right now, I think Charlie